Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradari. Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradari. Yashodanandana Braje Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Braje Janaranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Harinam Sankirtan Yagya ki jai. Gaur Premanande. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we're reading from Krsna Book, chapter 35, the Gopis' feelings of separation. The Gopis of Vrindavan were so attached to Krishna that they were not satisfied simply with the rasa dance at night. They wanted to associate with him and enjoy his company during the daytime also. When Krishna went to the forest with his cowherd boyfriends and cows, the Gopis did not physically take part, but their hearts went with him. And because their hearts went, they were able to enjoy his company through strong feelings of separation. To acquire this strong feeling of separation is the teaching of Lord Chaitanya and his direct disciples, the 6 Goswamis. When we are not in physical contact with Krishna, we can associate with him, like the Gopis, through feelings of separation. Krishna's transcendental form, qualities, pastimes, and entourage are all identical with him. There are 9 different kinds of devotional service. Devotional service to Krishna in feelings of separation elevates the devotee to the highest perfectional level, to the level of the Gopis. It is stated in Srinivasacharya's prayer to the 6 Goswamis that they left the material opulences of government service and princely status of life and went to Vrindavan, where they lived just like ordinary mendicants, begging from door to door. But they were so much enriched with the Gopis' feelings of separation that they enjoyed transcendental pleasure at every moment. Similarly, when Lord Chaitanya was at Jagannath Puri, he was in the role of Radharani, feeling separation from Krishna. Those who are in the disciplic succession of the Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya should always feel separation from Krishna, worship his transcendental form, and discuss his transcendental teachings, his pastimes, his qualities, his entourage, and his association. That will enrich the devotees to the highest devotional perfection. Feeling constant separation while engaged in the service of the Lord is the perfection of Krishna consciousness. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So this chapter that we're reading is way above my level of understanding and so many of our levels of understanding. The Gopis' feelings of separation is something we have no experience of. We have the experience of mundane separation. But I will try to share what I've researched from the acharyas and hopefully say something of value. Because what can we comprehend about Krishna's most intimate eternal associates and their sublime feelings? So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has commented on this chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, the first verse. He says, in this chapter, the gopis, pining in separation from Krishna, spend their days remembering him by reciting 12 pairs of verses known as the Yugala Gita. The gopis' prema, in order to nourish itself, divided itself into two parts: the coolness of direct enjoyment with Krishna in the moonlight, and the heat of separation from him in the daytime. The gopis spent their nights, as previously described, directly associating with Krishna by singing, dancing, conversing, kissing, and relishing conjugal rasa. In the daytime, they could only associate with Krishna by thinking of him. Drinking the nectar of Krishna's flute song, the gopis became immersed in the rasa of separation. When Krishna went to the forest to herd the cows, the gopis' minds chased after him. So there's two feelings described here, which is the coolness of Krishna's association at night during the rasa dance, and then the heat of separation during the day. So the gopis, in that heat of separation, they are just constantly absorbed in thoughts of Krishna. The gopis used to discuss Krishna amongst themselves, and their talks were as follows. "My dear friends," one gopi said, "do you know that when Krishna lies on the ground, he rests on his left elbow and his head rests on his left hand? He moves his attractive eyebrows while playing his flute with his delicate fingers, and the sound he produces creates such a nice atmosphere that the denizens of the heavenly planets, who travel in space with their wives and beloveds, stop their airplanes, for they are stunned by the vibration of the flute. The wives of the demigods, who are seated in the plains, then become very much ashamed of their singing and musical qualifications. Not only that, but they become afflicted with conjugal love, and their hair and tight clothes immediately loosens." So you can notice the attention to detail that is displayed by the gopis. They notice everything about Krishna. Love is in the details, as Srila Prabhupada said, and there's not a detail missed by the gopis. They have the highest form of love, so they're always watching Krishna, observing, noticing what he needs, what he desires, what will please him the most. They're deeply attentive to every aspect of Krishna's life. We see in the chapter of the Rasa dance, when Krishna left, the gopis became like the original CIA agents. They were detectives. They were looking for him, and they saw footprints, and then they noticed there were two footprints, so they assumed he must have taken one special gopi with him. And then they were making conclusions based on the footprints. When one set of footprints disappeared, they thought, oh, he must have carried her, and now he's carrying her and walking. And then when the impression of the footprint became lighter, they said, oh, he must have been reaching up to pick a fruit from the tree for her. So they notice everything. And Srila Jiva Goswami says that this chapter, all these statements by the gopis, they're made at different times. They're not like one consecutive conversation that they're having in one place. It's while they were standing here and there all over Vrindavan, they were speaking like this. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that he comments on this phrase, delicate fingers, because it's described Krishna has delicate fingers. And he says, because Krishna never worked, his lotus petal-like fingers were softer than those of other men, but they were somewhat harder than his other limbs. And he goes on to describe the wives of the Siddhas. He says, the wives of the Siddhas flying in the sky, though accompanied by their husbands, became astonished upon hearing the sound of the flute. We have never heard such enchanting flute playing before, which totally bewilders us, even though we are chaste ladies. Their husbands thought, even though we are men, this flute bewilders us too, and makes us assume the mentality of women. The celestial women became embarrassed in the presence of their husbands and thought, Our husbands, seeing our agitation, will have doubts about us. The husbands, on the other hand, became embarrassed, thinking, having given up our male identity and adopted female identities, our wives will have doubts about us. The celestial ladies and their husbands, the Siddhas, then succumbed to the arrows of lust. Seeing the arrows of love for Krishna approaching quickly, the wives said, "O arrows of love for Krishna, quickly pierce these hearts which have been offered to you. Let us give up our faithfulness to our husbands and let Krishna enjoy with us." The husband said, "As we have given up our manhood and our status as demigods, immediately turn us into gopis and enjoy with us." Both the women and their husbands became stunned due to the torment of the arrows of lust. The same feelings appeared in both parties at once. Therefore, the women's belts became loosened without their knowledge, and the men's clothing and hair became loose without their knowing. These are very exalted feelings just from the demigods who are hearing the sound of Krishna's flute. So we'll continue reading. Another gopi said, "My dear friends, Krishna is so beautiful that the goddess of fortune always remains on his chest, and he is always adorned with a golden necklace. Beautiful Krishna plays his flute in order to enliven the hearts of many devotees. He is the only friend of the suffering living entities. When he plays his flute, all the cows and other animals of Vrindavan, although engaged in eating, simply take a morsel of food in their mouths and stop chewing. Their ears raise up and they become stunned. They do not appear alive but like painted animals. Krishna's flute playing is so attractive that even the animals become enchanted, and what to speak of ourselves?" Another gopi said, "My dear friends, not only living animals, but even inanimate objects like the rivers and lakes of Vrindavan also become stunned when Krishna passes with peacock feathers on his head and his body smeared with the minerals of Vrindavan. With the leaves and flowers decorating his body, he looks like some hero. When he plays on his flute and calls the cows with Balaram, the river Yamuna stops flowing and waits for the air to carry dust from his lotus feet. But the river Yamuna is so unfortunate like us. It does not get Krishna's mercy. The river simply remains stunned, stopping its waves, just as we also stop crying for Krishna in expectation. In the absence of Krishna, the gopis were constantly shedding tears, but sometimes, when they expected that Krishna was coming, they would stop crying. But when they saw that Krishna was not coming, they would again become frustrated and begin to cry. Krishna is the original personality of Godhead, the origin of all Vishnu forms, and the cowherd boys are all demigods. So just as Lord Vishnu is always worshipped and surrounded by different demigods like Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, Indra, Chandra, and others, when Krishna traveled through the Vrindavan forest or walked on Govardhan hill, he was accompanied by the cowherd boys. While walking, he played his flute just to call his cows. Just by his association, the trees, plants, and other vegetation in the forest immediately became Krishna conscious. A Krishna conscious person sacrifices everything for Krishna. Although the trees and plants were not very advanced in consciousness, by the association of Krishna and his friends, they also became Krishna conscious. They then wanted to deliver everything, whatever they had, namely their fruits, flowers, and the honey incessantly falling from their branches. When Krishna walked on the bank of the Yamuna, he was seen nicely decorated with tilak on his face. He was garlanded with different kinds of forest flowers, and his body was smeared with the pulp of sandalwood and tulsi leaves. The bumblebees became mad after the fragrance and sweetness of the atmosphere and began to hum. Being pleased by the humming sound of the bees, Krishna would play his flute, and together the sounds became so sweet to hear that aquatic birds like cranes, swans, and ducks were charmed. Instead of swimming or flying, they became stunned. They closed their eyes and entered a trance of meditation in worship of Krishna. So these are such beautiful descriptions of how all the residents of Vrindavan, not just the gopis and Krishna's associates, but the trees, the plants, the rivers, the animals, everyone was so attracted to Krishna that the moving creatures became stunned and the non-moving creatures started moving out of that ecstasy of having the association of Krishna. The trees and forest creepers wanted to offer their obeisances and surrender everything to Krishna. So they became abundant with fruits and flowers and oozed honey like a shower of rain. In the purport to this verse in Srimad Bhagavatam, the disciples of Srila Prabhupada quoted Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and explained that he gives the analogy that just as when a householder Vaishnavas hear a Sankirtan party approaching, they become ecstatic and offer obeisances. So the trees and creepers in Vrindavan became ecstatic when they heard Krishna's flute and bowed low with their branches and vines. And there's also an interesting point about Tulsi, who, although exalted in many ways, is not normally considered an especially fragrant plant. However, early in the morning, Tulsi emits a transcendental fragrance that ordinary people cannot perceive, but that transcendental personalities fully appreciate. So that's why it's described that the fragrance of Tulsi was captivating. So we'll continue reading. One gopi said, "My dear friends, Krishna and Balaram are nicely dressed with earrings and pearl necklaces. They enjoy themselves on the top of Govardhan hill, and everything becomes absorbed in transcendental pleasure when Krishna plays on his flute, charming the whole created manifestation. When he plays, the clouds stop their loud thundering out of fear of him. Rather than disturb the vibration of his flute, they respond with mild thunder and so congratulate Krishna, their friend. Krishna is accepted as the friend of the cloud because both the cloud and Krishna satisfy the people when they are disturbed. When people are burning due to excessive heat, the cloud satisfies them with rain. Similarly, when people in materialistic life become disturbed by the blazing fire of material pangs, Krishna consciousness gives them relief like a cloud. The cloud and Krishna, having the same bodily color also, are considered to be friends. Desiring to congratulate its superior friend, the cloud poured not water, but small flowers and covered the head of Krishna, just like an umbrella to protect him from the scorching sunshine." Sri Sri Radha Radhanath ki jai, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai, Sri Giriraj Govardhan ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments on this point about the cloud and Krishna. He says, "Here we can understand that Krishna is the cloud standing on the slope of the mountain. His garland and earrings are the cranes flying in the sky. His yellow dhoti is the lightning, and the song of his flute is the rain showering the essence of delicious nectar." So we'll continue reading. One of the gopis told Mother Yashoda, "My dear mother, your son is very expert among the cowherd boys. He knows all the different arts of how to tend the cows and how to play the flute. He composes his own songs, and to play them he puts his flute to his mouth. When he plays, either in the morning or in the evening, all the demigods, including Lord Shiva, Brahma, Indra, and Chandra, bow their heads and listen with great attention. Although they are very learned and expert, they cannot understand the musical arrangements of Krishna's flute. They simply listen attentively and try to understand, but they become bewildered and nothing more. So in this verse, it said that the gopis actually went to Mother Yashoda's house to pacify her because she was overwhelmed by separation from Krishna because he hadn't returned at the usual expected time after tending the cows. So because he was late, the gopis went over to pacify her and also themselves by speaking about Krishna. It's so beautiful how the gopis are constantly distressed in separation, but the only thing that brings them some solace is discussing the pastimes and glories of Krishna. So they mentioned how the great demigods are bewildered by Krishna's flute playing. And therefore, how can any ordinary person understand Krishna's musical arrangements? He bewilders the entire universe. Another gopi said, "My dear friends, when Krishna returns home with his cows, the footprints of the soles of his feet with flag, thunderbolt, trident, and lotus flower relieve the pain the earth feels when the cows traverse it. He walks in a stride which is so attractive, and he carries his flute. Just by looking at him, we become lusty to enjoy his company. At that time, our movements cease. We become just like trees and stand perfectly still, unaware that our hair and clothes are loosening." So here, after this verse, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, the gopis are no longer in the association of Mother Yashoda, so they could freely discuss their conjugal relationship with Krishna. And they say, on one hand, Krishna removes the distress of the earth, but for us, the beautiful browed gopis of Vrindavan, he agitates our minds by glancing at us with his beautiful lotus eyes. Such is our misfortune. And Jiva Goswami comments that because they're absorbed in thought of Krishna day and night, these statements are all from different times of the day. But it's interesting how, on the one hand, he is relieving the pain of the earth, but for the gopis, he's causing them pain because of their agitation of being attracted to him. Krishna had many thousands of cows, and they were divided into groups according to their colors. They were also differently named according to color. When he would prepare to return from the pasturing ground, he would gather all the cows. As Vaishnavas count 108 beads, which represent the 108 individual gopis, so Krishna would also count on 108 beads to count the different groups of cows. When Krishna returns, he is garlanded with tulsi leaves. A gopi described him to a friend. He puts his hand on the shoulder of a cowherd boyfriend and begins to blow his transcendental flute. The wives of the black deer become enchanted upon hearing the vibration of his flute, which resembles the vibration of the veena. The deer come to Krishna and become so charmed that they stand still, forgetting their homes and husbands. Like us, who are enchanted by the ocean of the transcendental qualities of Krishna, the she-deer become enchanted by the vibration of his flute. Another gopi told Mother Yashoda, "My dear mother, when your son returns home, he decorates himself with buds of the kunda flower, and just to enlighten and gladden his friends, he blows his flute. The breeze blowing from the south creates a pleasing atmosphere because it is fragrant and very cool. Minor demigods like the Gandharvas and Siddhas take advantage of this atmosphere and offer prayers to your son by sounding their bugles and drums. Krishna is very kind to the inhabitants of Rajabhumi, Vrindavan, and when he returns with his cows and friends, he is remembered as the lifter of Govardhan Hill. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the most exalted demigods like Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva come down to offer their evening prayers, and they accompany the cowherd boys in glorifying the qualities of Krishna. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments, when the gopis assembled at Mother Yashoda's house in the afternoon, they saw that she was disturbed over Krishna's late return, so they pacified Yashoda by telling her the reason for Krishna's delay in this verse. The gopis said, after bathing in the Yamuna to relieve his fatigue, Krishna sat down on her bank and dressed in a festive way to please his cowherd boyfriends, who were eagerly waiting to meet him. A gentle breeze blew to refresh Krishna as he played in the water with his foot. To gladden his friends, Krishna told jokes and listened to theirs. O sinless Yashoda, you never committed any sins previously or in this life. By which danger could come to your son? Why do you, who are endowed with the most spotless fame, uselessly worry about danger from demons if Krishna is a little late? He is the son of Nanda, who is famous as the crest jewel of all pious men, and he is your darling son. We see that children fall into danger only when the parents have bad karma. Therefore, no danger can befall your son. Listen as we tell you the reason for Krishna's being late, as we have heard it from his friends. The wind, which has acquired its fine fragrance and coolness by touching the sandalwood trees growing on the Malaya hill, is blowing very pleasantly to honor your son. The Upadevas, minor demigods like the Gandharvas, have surrounded Krishna and are worshipping him by playing musical instruments and praising his qualities. In order to acknowledge them, Krishna is delaying a bit according to the logic that those of quality delight in seeing persons with good qualities. Therefore, there is no need to worry about your son. Actually, it is your great fortune that the Upadevas are honoring your son in this manner. The Srimad Bhagavatam verse for this is such a beautiful description. It says, out of great affection for the cows of Raj, Krishna became the lifter of Govardhan hill. At the end of the day, having rounded up all his own cows, he plays a song on his flute, while exalted demigods standing along the path worship his lotus feet, and the cowherd boys accompanying him chant his glories. His garland is powdered by the dust raised by the cow's hooves, and his beauty, enhanced by his fatigue, creates an ecstatic festival for everyone's eyes. Eager to fulfill his friends' desires, Krishna is the moon arisen from the womb of Mother Yashoda. I think we all can relate to experiencing a festival for the eyes when we see the beautiful deities. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur further comments, seeing that my son, who is so eager to play, has not come back at the end of twilight, I will now kill myself. Fearing such a response from Mother Yashoda, the gopis try to console her by giving reasons why Krishna will come quickly in this verse. The gopis said, Krishna is affectionately remembering how the bulls and the calves tied up in Vraj are suffering in separation from him, and so he will quickly come back, even at the risk of neglecting the Gandharvas and other demigods. One cannot say that for a cowherd boy like Krishna, the expert singing of such extremely insignificant singers as these Gandharvas is more attractive than seeing the cows, feeding them grass, touching them, and scratching their necks. Krishna showed how much affection he has for his cows by lifting Govardhan hill just to protect them. Though the Gandharvas may have heaps of good qualities, Krishna has not even a trace of affection for them. Mother Yashoda replied, if that is so, then by this time Krishna should have returned home. Replying to that objection, the gopis present yet another reason for Krishna's delay. Brahma, Shiva, Indra, and other chief demigods are now offering their respects to your son while standing along the path. Attracted by the sound of Krishna's flute, the demigods come from their own abodes and remain all day in the sky watching Krishna in great bliss. When Krishna returns to Vraja in the evening, the demigods also return to their celestial abodes, but not before descending to earth to worship the lotus feet of your son, in order to obtain his mercy. What can Krishna do in this circumstance? Krishna's extended delay is caused by his taking time to bless the demigods. Why don't you see your own great fortune, that the feet of your son are being honored even by Brahma, Shiva, and other chief demigods? Therefore, why are you so distressed? In a tearful, choking voice, Yashoda said, "O dear young girls of Vraj, please return to the watchtowers and tell me how far away my son is." On Yashoda's order, the tallest of the beautiful young gopis climbed up the watchtower to see when Krishna would arrive. She said, "Krishna is now coming home to fulfill the desires of his well-wishers. With the sweet sound of his flute, he has collected all the cows in one place. The fatigue of cowherding has brilliantly enhanced Krishna's beautiful form. His garland is sprinkled with the dust raised by the cows' hooves. Indeed, seeing Krishna in this way creates a festival of ecstasy for the eyes of the entire world." So we'll continue reading. Krishna is compared to the moon, born in the ocean of the womb of Devaki. When he returns in the evening, it appears that he is fatigued, but he still tries to gladden the inhabitants of Vrindavan by his auspicious presence. When Krishna returns, garlanded with flowers, his face looks beautiful, adorned with golden earrings. He walks into Vrindavan with a stride just like the elephants and slowly enters his home. Upon his return, the men, women, and cows of Vrindavan immediately forget the scorching heat of the day. And in this verse in Srimad Bhagavatam, the disciples of Srila Prabhupada write, "Thus Sri Krishna, by coming back to the village of Vraja, relieved the inhabitants of Vrindavan from the distress their eyes and other senses felt during the day because of being separated from direct contact with him." It's so beautifully written. I didn't want to paraphrase this because just the idea of them, of him relieving, just by their seeing him, he's relieving their distress, the distress for their eyes and other senses. It's so beautiful. Such descriptions of Krishna's transcendental pastimes and activities were remembered by the gopis during his absence from Vrindavan. They give us some idea of how attractive Krishna is, not only to human beings, but to all animate and inanimate objects. In Vrindavan, everyone and everything is attracted to Krishna, including the trees, the plants, the water, and animals like the deer and cows. That is the perfect description of Krishna's all-attractiveness. The example of the gopis is very instructive to persons who are trying to be absorbed in Krishna consciousness. One can very easily associate with Krishna simply by remembering his transcendental pastimes. Everyone has a tendency to love someone. That Krishna should be the object of love is the central point of Krishna consciousness. By constantly chanting the Hare Krishna mantra and remembering the transcendental pastimes of Krishna, one can be fully in Krishna consciousness and thus make his life sublime and fruitful. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 35th chapter of Krishna, the gopis' feelings of separation. In the Srimad Bhagavatam verse, for this last verse, in the purport, the disciples of Srila Prabhupada said, this verse definitely confirms that the so-called pain of the heartbroken gopis is actually great spiritual bliss. On the material platform, pain is pain, period. But on the spiritual platform, so-called pain is simply a different variety of spiritual ecstasy. In the Western countries, people take pleasure in mixing different flavors of ice cream to produce wonderful combinations of flavor. Similarly, on the spiritual platform, Sri Krishna and his devotees expertly mix the flavors of spiritual bliss, and thus every day was a treat for the gopis. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, "My dear King Parikshit, the gopis' minds were absorbed in Krishna. and Krishna's mind was absorbed in them. Therefore, since Krishna and his beloved gopis shared both roles of being the object and the subject of love, they concentrated their minds on each other. Thus, because they continually relished each other at every moment, both in separation and meeting through their minds, it is said in this verse that the gopis enjoyed the separation during the day. Prema has two states, union and separation. Though the person absorbed in Krishna appears to be suffering when he is separated from Krishna, actually he is internally relishing the highest state of bliss. On the spiritual platform, the so-called pain of separation is simply a different variety of transcendental ecstasy. Thus, pure love of God is the crown jewel of all goals of human endeavor. So, this is just a little bit of what I've researched, but I can't speak on these topics from my own experience. The only thing that comes close, I feel, that we can experience here is separation from our spiritual masters. There's this beautiful verse in the Padyavali by Srila Rupa Goswami where Srimati Radharani is saying, I prefer separation from Krishna to union, because in union I see Krishna only in one place, whereas in separation I see him everywhere. And I was thinking of this in relation to the spiritual master. When the spiritual master is present, we can see them in one place. But when we're separated from the spiritual master and we are constantly absorbed in thought and service to the spiritual master, then we can experience their presence everywhere and we can see them everywhere. So if we just try to dedicate our lives to following the instruction of the spiritual master, we can, it's even better than seeing him in one place. We can see him everywhere. There's also many descriptions of separation experienced by Lord Chaitanya, which Srila Prabhupada mentioned in the beginning of this Krsna Book chapter, that Lord Chaitanya experienced this intensity of separation during the Rath Yatra festival and also just while he was at Jagannath Puri. And there's a beautiful description in great detail described in Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela chapter 2, where Lord Chaitanya is expressing his ecstatic feelings in the mood of Radharani, and it resembles when Uddhava came to Vrindavan and Srimati Radharani went to that intense ecstatic experience. Lord Chaitanya had bodily effects of this intensity of separation. There was blood flowing from his paws, his teeth loosened, his joints would become separated from them, and he was just reciting verse after verse in glorification of Krishna. So I wanted to read a little bit about that since we have some time. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to express his mind in this way. Where is the Lord of my life who is playing his flute? What shall I do now? Where should I go to find the son of Maharaj Nanda? To whom should I speak? Who can understand my disappointment? Without the son of Nanda Maharaj, my heart is broken. And then he started reciting verses from a drama written by Ramananda Rai, known as Jagannath Vallabha Nataka, and some verses from Krishna Karnamrita, in which Srimati Radharani is speaking. So he says, Srimati Radharani used to lament, our Krishna does not realize what we have suffered from injuries inflicted in the course of loving affairs. We are actually misused by love because love does not know where to strike and where not to strike. Even Cupid does not know our very much weakened condition. What should I tell anyone? No one can understand another's difficulties. Our life is actually not under our control, for youth will remain for 2 or 3 days and soon be finished. In this condition, O Creator, what will be our destination? And she continues speaking in distress due to separation from Krishna. Oh, what shall I say of my distress? After I met Krishna, my loving propensity sprouted, but upon separating from him, I sustained a great shock, which is now continuing like the sufferings of a disease. The only physician for this disease is Krishna himself, but he is not taking care of the sprouting plant of devotional service. What can I say about the behavior of Krishna? Outwardly, he is a very attractive young lover, but at heart, he is a great cheat, very expert in killing others' wives. She continued lamenting about the consequences of loving Krishna. My dear friend, I do not understand the regulative principles given by the Creator. I loved Krishna for happiness, but the result was just the opposite. I am now in an ocean of distress. It must be that now I am going to die, for my vital force no longer remains. This is my state of mind. By nature, loving affairs are very crooked. They are not entered with sufficient knowledge, nor do they consider whether a place is suitable or not, nor do they look forward to the results. By the ropes of his good qualities, Krishna, who is so unkind, has bound my neck and hands, and I am unable to get relief. In my loving affairs, there is a person named Madana. His qualities are thus. Personally, he possesses no gross body, yet he is very expert in giving pains to others. He has 5 arrows, and fixing them on his bow, he shoots them into the bodies of innocent women. Thus these women become invalids. It would be better if he took my life without hesitation, but he does not do so. He simply gives me pain. In the scriptures, it is said that one person can never know the unhappiness in the mind of another. Therefore, what can I say of my dear friends, Lalita and the others? Nor can they understand the unhappiness within me. They simply try to console me repeatedly, saying, "Dear friend, be patient." I say, "My dear friends, you are asking me to be patient, saying that Krishna is an ocean of mercy and that sometime in the future he will accept me. However, I must say that this will not console me. A living entity's life is very flickering. It is like water on the leaf of a lotus flower. Who will live long enough to expect Krishna's mercy? A human being does not live more than 100 years. You should also consider that the youthfulness of a woman, which is the only attraction for Krishna, remains only for a few days. If you say that Krishna is an ocean of transcendental qualities and therefore must be merciful someday, I can only say that he is like fire, which attracts moths by its dazzling brightness and kills them. Such are the qualities of Krishna. By showing us his transcendental qualities, he attracts our minds, and then later, by separating from us, he drowns us in an ocean of unhappiness. So Lord Chaitanya is in an ecstatic mood of separation, and he is reciting these verses spoken by Srimati Radharani. And then he continues reciting other verses now. My dear friends, unless I serve the transcendental form, qualities, and pastimes of Sri Krishna, all my days and all my senses will become entirely useless. Now I am uselessly bearing the burden of my senses, which are like stone blocks and dried wood. I do not know how long I will be able to continue without shame. So the following verses are all about how the senses are completely useless if not engaged in the service of Krishna. Of what use are the eyes of one who does not see the face of Krishna, which resembles the moon and is the birthplace of all beauty and the reservoir of the nectarian songs of his flute? Oh, let a thunderbolt strike his head. Why does he keep such eyes? My dear friends, please hear me. I have lost all providential strength. Without Krishna, my body, consciousness, and mind, as well as all my senses, are useless. Topics about Krishna are like waves of nectar. If such nectar does not enter one's ear, the ear is no better than the hole of a damaged conch shell. Such an ear is created for no purpose. The nectar from the lips of Lord Krishna and his transcendental qualities and characteristics surpass the taste of the essence of all nectar. And there is no fault in tasting such nectar. If one does not taste it, he should die immediately after birth, and his tongue is to be considered no better than the tongue of a frog. One's nostrils are no better than the bellows of a blacksmith if one has not smelled the fragrance of Krishna's body, which is like the aroma of musk combined with that of the bluish lotus flower. Indeed, such combinations are actually defeated by the aroma of Krishna's body. The palms of Krishna's hands and the soles of his feet are so cool and pleasant that they can be compared only to the light of millions of moons. One who has touched such hands and feet has indeed tasted the effects of touchstone. If one has not touched them, his life is spoiled, and his body is like iron. And then even further ecstatic verses were recited by Lord Chaitanya. If by chance the transcendental form of Krishna comes before my path of vision, my heart, injured from being beaten, will be stolen away by Cupid, happiness personified. Because I could not see the beautiful form of Krishna to my heart's content, when I again see his form, I shall decorate the phases of time with many jewels. I remember when I was reading these verses the first time, it was during the COVID lockdown, right at the beginning when it just happened. And I was thinking of when will we get to see Krishna again? When will we be able to come to the temple and see our Sri Sri Radha Radhanath again? So I related to this idea of seeing Krishna. Whenever I had the chance to see Lord Krishna's face and his flute, even in a dream, two enemies would appear before me. They were pleasure and Cupid. And since they took away my mind, I was not able to see the face of Krishna to the full satisfaction of my eyes. If by chance such a moment comes when I can once again see Krishna, then I shall worship those seconds, moments, and hours with flower garlands and pulp of sandalwood, and decorate them with all kinds of jewels and ornaments. Love of Godhead, devoid of cheating propensities, is not possible within this material world. If there is such a love, there cannot be separation. For if there is separation, how can one live? Pure love for Krishna, just like gold from the Jambu River, does not exist in human society. If it existed, there could not be separation. If separation were there, one could not live. Love for Lord Krishna is very pure, just like the waters of the Ganges. That love is an ocean of nectar. That pure attachment to Krishna does not conceal any spot which would appear just like a spot of ink on a white cloth. Unalloyed love of Krishna is like an ocean of happiness. If someone gets one drop of it, the whole world can drown in that drop. It is not befitting to express such love of Godhead. Yet a madman must speak, but even though he speaks, no one believes him. And so then Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spoke again. My dear beautiful friend, if one develops love of Godhead, love of Krishna, the son of Nanda Maharaj, all the bitter and sweet influences of this love will manifest in one's heart. Such love of Godhead acts in two ways. The poisonous effects of love of Godhead defeat the severe and fresh poison of the serpent. Yet there is simultaneously transcendental bliss, which pours down and defeats the pride of nectar and diminishes its value. In other words, love of Krishna is so powerful that it simultaneously defeats the poisonous effects of a snake as well as the happiness derived from pouring nectar on one's head. It is perceived as doubly effective, simultaneously poisonous and nectarian. And now, when Lord Chaitanya was looking at Lord Jagannath, he recited these upcoming verses on the way back after seeing Lord Jagannath. Alas, where is Vrindavan? Where is Krishna, the son of the king of the cowherd men? Where is that person who plays the flute? So Lord Chaitanya would lament by saying, where is Sri Krishna, whose form is curved in 3 places? Where is the sweet song of his flute, and where is the bank of the Yamuna? Where is the rasa dance? Where is that dancing, singing, and laughing? Where is my Lord, Madan Mohan, the enchanter of Cupid? O my Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, O friend of the helpless, You are the only ocean of mercy. Because I have not met you, my inauspicious days and nights have become unbearable. I do not know how I shall pass the time. All these inauspicious days and nights are not passing, for I have not met you. It is difficult to know how to pass all this time. But you are the friend of the helpless and an ocean of mercy. Kindly give me your audience, for I am in a precarious position. O Krishna, O flute player, the sweetness of your early age is wonderful within these three worlds. You know my unsteadiness, and I know yours. No one else knows about this. I want to see your beautiful, attractive face somewhere in a solitary place, but how can this be accomplished? My dear Krishna, only you and I know the strength of your beautiful features, and because of them, my unsteadiness. Now, this is my position. I do not know what to do or where to go. Where can I find you? I'm asking you to give me directions. And then these feelings of Srimati Radharani get further intensified. And Lord Chaitanya says, "O my Lord, O dearest one, O only friend of the universe, O Krishna, O restless one, O only ocean of mercy, O my Lord, O my enjoyer, O beloved to my eyes, alas, when will you again be visible to me?" My dear Lord, you are engaged in your pastimes, and you utilize all the women in the universe according to your desire. You are so kind to me. Please divert your attention to me, for by fortune you have appeared before me. My dear Lord, you attract all the women of the universe, and you make adjustments for all of them when they appear. You are Lord Krishna, and you can enchant everyone, but on the whole, you are nothing but a debauchee. Who can honor you? My dear Krishna, your mind is always restless. You cannot remain in one place, but you are not at fault for this. You are actually the ocean of mercy, the friend of my heart. Therefore, I have no reason to be angry with you. My dear Lord, you are the master and the life and soul of Vrindavan. Kindly arrange for the deliverance of Vrindavan. We have no leisure hours away from our many activities. Actually, you are my enjoyer. You have appeared just to give me happiness, and this is one of your expert activities. Taking my words as defamation, Lord Krishna has left me. I know that he is gone, but kindly hear my prayers in praise. You are the satisfaction of my eyes. You are my wealth and my life. Alas, please give me your audience once again. In the attitude of Radharani, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu addressed the Gopis. My dear friends, where is that Krishna, Cupid personified, who has the effulgence of a kadamba flower, who is sweetness itself, the nectar of my eyes and mind? He who loosens the hair of the Gopis, who is the supreme source of transcendental bliss and my life and soul. Has he come before my eyes again? And then Lord Chaitanya said, is Cupid personified present with the effulgence and reflection of the Kadamba tree? Is he the same person, personified sweetness, who is the pleasure of my eyes and mind, who is my life and soul? Has Krishna actually come before my eyes? So this chapter perfectly explains, perfectly describes Srimati Radharani's feelings with really beautiful verses from the books of the Goswamis. And it gets more and more intensified as the verses go along, and there's many more verses, and then further chapters in Chaitanya Charitamrita. But I wanted to just read these because we can see how intense the separation gets for Srimati Radharani and Lord Chaitanya, and how they spend all their time focused and absorbed in the qualities of Krishna, Krishna's pastimes, his form, his attributes. And it's an example of how we should try to spend our time fully absorbed. We can't imitate or get to the level of the Gopis, but we can try to spend all our time and energy absorbed in Krishna in some way in our services here. So I'll end there, and if there's any comments or I don't know, clarifications, I don't think I can answer questions on this topic. But if there's any nectar anyone would like to share, please share. Okay. Krantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanande Ripo.